2020. It's on Zoom. Roll call. Ms. Goro,
Present.
Ms. Red.
He's
Ms. Red,
on.
I see her. Okay, Ms. Red's here. Mr. Girl,
Present.
Mr. Tassoni,
Present.
my main man, Mr. Neighbors.
I see him on.
He's muted too, but I see him. Okay. And Mr. Fellers.
Here.
Okay.
One more
Mr.
left.
Salgado is here, right?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, everybody's here, so we have a quorum. We don't have any minutes. Do we have any public comment? No public comment.
Joe, I don't know if you want me to make them public.
Who are we talking about?
Oh, sorry. Just messing with you.
I only got the last part of that. I got to put that hearing aid in, man. Sorry. It probably was a good one, Dan, and I just missed it, so.
Highly unlikely.
All right. Let's start out with finance. Mr. Salgado.
Yeah, don't think we have anything coming up for their next meeting. And I don't see that we have anything scheduled. Just real quick, last time there was talks about the CFO position being posted out there. I know that after speaking to Mr. Schultz wanted to kind of work with Mr. Thompson on trying to find candidates and what requirements they're looking for. So more to come on that, on the CFO position. And the other piece was the River Bluff Nursing Home. We had some financial information that went out to the group for the joint committee, the personnel, policies, and finance as well. They're going to be looking at different things, initiatives to get that going. So more to hear about that in the coming months, but just wanted to throw those two things out there. And like I said, the CFO position, more information is going to come through. We'll see that. And yeah, hopefully more things will come up our way. And I know Bert has something too for the finance potentially regarding the, some other financial help that we could get for the community. So Bert will bring that forward to us at a possible new finance committee meeting. But other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Bert, did you want to say anything about that now or just wait till then?
I'm just going to wait a little bit while. I got to do a little bit more looking into it and just get a better idea of it. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bert. Operations. Dorothy, you want to take that one? You're muted. Dorothy? Who wants to take ops if I can't get a hold of Dorothy?
Anyone else on that committee?
You're on that committee.
Yeah, there's nothing from my perspective that I saw out there regarding operations. Last meeting that we had, were pretty much straightforward with the different, was it the clerk's office, with information regarding being shut down and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't recall seeing anything coming up this next meeting for operations.
There's 3 on the table, Jaime.
Yeah. Can you read them off? Maybe.
Yeah. Paper goods, liners, and chemical products.
Yep.
Resolution awarding data backup recovery and intelligence systems agreement, which is basically our anti-ransomware backup the county so that we won't be RPS 205.
Yep.
And then approving bond amounts for the county clerk, county treasurer, and county auditor. And those are all we voted on this meeting. So.
Right.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Anybody have, there's probably no question to ask on that one since we haven't, it'll come up later.
Gus has done a really great job. Gus and Dan have done a really great job on this data backup and recovery solution. It's really an ingenious solution, and I think it's going to protect the county.
Anybody have any other questions for Dan or Jaime? Seeing none. Let's move on to Public Works, Mr. Tassoni.
No report, Chairman.
Thank you. Zoning, Mr. Fellers.
No report.
All right. Public safety, who wants to take that?
No report.
Yeah, well, that's easy to take then. P&P committee, Ms. Goro, Ms. Red, anybody hear me?
Which committee?
P&P,
No, we don't have anything.
nothing, huh? Okay.
No.
Economic development.
Nothing.
No report.
Nothing. All right. Okay, that's all that. Let's, for other matters, I was gonna bring up to everybody tonight that we're coming up to that point again. First of all, we're gonna lose Mr. Fellers, which, believe it or not, I will miss you. Been doing a good job. But on top of that, we're gonna have to do a couple things after everybody gets sworn in. We're gonna have to decide who's gonna be the next chair of the committee, or if I'm gonna stay on as the chair committee, I'm still interested in doing it. If you guys want me to. We also have to decide who wants to be on what committees. I would appreciate if all of you would kind of think about it and just let me know what committees, if you want to make any changes or if you want to stay in the committees around, just let me know. And then we'll, after everybody gets sworn in, I'm going to have a meeting with Paul Arena, who is going to be the new chair of the Republican Caucus. And we're going to see if where they're at, and we're going to try to get together and make up some committees. So I'd be appreciate if you guys, even if you want to stay on the ones you're on, just let me know that and which ones they are, because I want to make sure if anybody wants something different, I want to be able to look at them. So don't take for granted that I will know what committees you're all on. I have the list, but I might forget it. I've been known to do that.
Joe, if I
So
could
just-
offer a suggestion, since I got a chance here before I'm done,
Pardon me?
if I could offer a suggestion before I leave,
You can.
I would do yourselves a favor and fold personnel and policies back into operations where it belongs.
Well, I've already talked to Paul Arena about that. Let me ask you a question, just so, since we're talking about that. Thanks, Dan, for bringing that up. Where does everybody else feel on this committee about that? I think it's probably something we should do. I don't know what you guys think.
I agree.
May I speak?
Yes.
The way if the present committee chair stays on as chair, I prefer us to say as personnel and policy committee. We need to get, we tried before with personnel and not personnel, with the, let me think here. I can't even find it here. You were going to, you want to combine it with operations and administration. There's so much going on in operations and administration. Back when, 4 years back, we were trying to do new policies, and we couldn't get in all that into that particular committee because it has a lot of things that go through it. I do prefer that you leave that as personnel and policy committee. Not saying we're going to have problems. What we need to do is go back and look at the policies we have written to see if they need to be changed, if they need to be updated. Did we put things in those policies that need to be corrected? Because we did a lot of things really fast. But even prior to that, for this past 4 years, we have started looking at policies that haven't been updated for 20 years. And that's something we really, truly need to do, is get those policies updated. And that needs to be its own committee, just like it's been right now. I've been real pleased with the way that committee's been operating. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Angie. Is there anybody else that feels the same way? I want to make sure I know where people are at on this before I meet with Mr. Arena. Mr. Tassoni.
I have no opinion, Joe. Whatever you want.
Okay. Mr. Gurl, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Angie brings up some valid points, so I'll trust in Angie's expertise.
Okay,
So
I'll put you down for a yes.
I
Jaime,
finally got on. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on here.
I'll bring you up to snuff there, Dorothy. Right, we went through all the committees. There wasn't a whole lot. Most committees didn't have a report.
Right.
So what we're talking about now basically is what's going to happen after we get sworn in, people get sworn in. And one of the things, I don't know if you guys know this, but Paul Arena is going to be the new Republican caucus chair. He told me that he's thinking about wanting to combine to policy and procedures back with operations. And I don't know. I'm kind of Mr. Tassoni. I don't know. I don't care. Angie has a strong feeling about keeping them apart. I could be convinced either way. Bert kind of sounds like he feels that way too. So how do you feel about it, Dorothy?
I think it should be combined.
Okay. All right.
That's just my opinion of it.
Dorothy,
Okay.
Yes.
if it stays with the same person in charge, we're not going to get very far. If you look at even today, personnel and policy, that thing has 4 different items or 3 different items on it right now. That's always been a very busy committee. And
Angie, just 1 second. When you said the same person stays in charge, which committee are you talking about? P&P or operations?
I'm talking about operations. I'm sorry, operations and administration.
Okay.
If we have the same committee chair on that, we need to still be divided.
Okay.
Now that person, McDonald?
Yes.
Well, yeah, probably.
We have done a lot of things on personnel and policy that that needed to be done, but we also need to go back and start doing more checkup on old policies to get them updated. Some of those policies haven't, like I said, hadn't been changed since time began, and they need to be looked at, and they need to be updated. And that gives.
Let me ask you a question, G. Could we do that with an ad hoc committee if it's just mainly that one item, or is there a number of items enough to have another committee?
If you think about it, we have done some different things on this committee.
No.
Just like when hiring the administrator, we're going to be hiring some more new people, and we need to have it separated from operations and administration. We did a lot of research, and we went through a lot of, we all took part of this, but we've really found a good administrator. So this committee is the one that did it, was the personnel and policy. Operations doesn't have time to do those kind of things. They have their own agenda, and it doesn't really blend with personnel and policy. I feel that committee should still continue, and let's get everything kind of updated. We're going to have new leadership, and we should look at it just that way, as new leadership, and we need some new beginnings.
All right. Well, I don't have a problem either way, but just to bring it up, I think on the administrator, the ad hoc committee did more than any other committee.
But it still went through the policy committee.
The ad hoc was, was off the operations, wasn't it?
No, sir, it was all personnel and
Was it all
policy.
personnel?
No.
Well, either way, okay, I don't have a problem with it. I just would like everybody to let me know how they feel before I meet with Mr. Arena, so I can know where we're coming from, okay?
Yes.
Tim, do you have an idea on it?
I just like Angie's expertise since she's on the committee, and I would stick and trust what Angie has to say.
Okay, so you're gonna stick, okay.
Yeah,
Dan, I know
one
you're
more
leaving, but
thing.
I still value-
One
Go
more
ahead.
thing, Joe. I'm gonna have to leave here in 5 minutes, so I just
Okay.
wanted to let you all know that. But I did want to, I just want to put my bid in for public safety. That's one committee. I don't
Right.
care what else you put me on, but I want to be on public safety.
Okay.
Joe,
Tim,
are
I'm
we
gonna ask-
around the table like we did last time?
yeah, do what?
Are we gonna sit around the table and the tables and tell what committee we want to be on?
Yeah, we're gonna have a meeting, probably like this, and then I would ask you all to put down at least 2 committees you want to be on, and any other, and try to have some other ones that you would take a second choice, okay? And then some people might have 3 committees, I don't know. But come up with at least 2
When
and
is it-
some. Pardon me?
Joe,
Yeah.
When do you want to know this?
We're gonna do
What-
this. You can give me those committees anytime you want, but I want to have them for sure at the first meeting after everybody gets sworn in, because we're gonna have
Oh.
another, we're gonna have another fellers. So we gotta move, so we gotta figure all that out too. So,
Joe, can we just email these to you and
you
that
can-
have a record of it?
yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure give me a few options, because the last time it worked out pretty well. People got, I think, pretty much what they wanted. I don't know. I didn't
We were
hear any.
able to get together live when that happened. And since we can't, can we do an email to you so you have
Oh, yeah.
all our options?
No, you can. You can do an
All right.
email to me. But at some point, I'm gonna have a meeting with Republican Caucus Chair and find out what's available and try to. This is how I did it last time with Boomer. We just met and remember we got around the table and kind of went around. We are all together. Well, that probably,
Right,
I don't
right.
know. It may happen on Zoom. I don't know. But remember, we were all together on that meeting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys did you like that way that went?
Yes.
Okay, I'll bring that up to Republican Caucus Chair and see what he thinks. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it worked pretty well. But Tim, I have you down that you want public safety. But anybody else, as you get what you want, let me know. I still want to have that, no matter how we meet and do it. I want to have the list of what you guys want.
So you need an email.
Yeah.
That's right. We all need email.
Well,
We want best way of doing
I
it.
would rather you text it to me, be honest with you.
That you would what?
Just text it to me.
No, because you don't have it in your paper when you go and talk to Paul Arena.
You can
Always,
print a text, but we need to email it to you, Joe.
Well, email it then.
you always need a paper trail.
All right. I don't care how we get it. That's fine. Go ahead.
All right.
Fine with me. I just want to have something in my hand when I go there so I know what you guys want.
Joe, if I
Yeah.
can offer a suggestion, you might want to reach out to my replacement and see which committee she would prefer. Might save you a headache later.
What was all that, Dan?
Can you guys hear me okay?
It's
A
kind of
little
muffled for me, but
I've had some problems with my mic.
Yeah, I can't hear you. But do you have to keep changing places? I never know where I'm going to find you at.
What's going on? Anyway, you might want to reach out to my replacement. She might want some input on which committee she's in.
yeah. Oh, I already knew that.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, I'm just saving the headache later.
You have any ideas what that might be?
Well, I would say that she'd probably go into the public safety and economic development if I were guessing.
You
No,
said
you gotta- That
public safety and economic development. Is that what you said?
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll see. It depends on what everybody else wants, but I want to get that done as soon as possible. I'll let everybody know when I have a meeting with Paul Arena so we can work on all that. Is there anything anybody else wants to have me discuss with the Republican Caucus Chair? Anything standing out in your minds that we want to do different?
Adjust policy and procedures to get rid of the call to question.
Well, we can bring that up. I think, you know what, the calling the question thing will smooth out as soon as everybody starts. I think that's going to change with the new chairman, be honest with you. The
Good
call to
luck.
question result of something, a group of people that held up the board. So I think that will stop after that for the most part.
we hope.
Well,
Joe,
yes.
I see Dr. Martell is
I
online.
was just going to go to Dr. Martell and see what, Dr. Martell, do you want to address the board or you just visiting or are we all in trouble for some violation?
All of the above and none of the above.
Oh, man. I knew Dan was messing up.
I think that probably just to kind of, I normally don't get invited to the caucuses, so that was kind of an interesting one. So I thought but since you, I really want to kind of make sure that everyone is up to speed. And I think one of the things I think both of the caucuses need to really work on is that as we go through this pandemic, we're going to have more mitigations, not less, right? it's clear that the mitigations that they've applied to us with, indoor dining and group size is not having an impact. And so, what we're hearing from the state now is, what are you willing to do as a community? What can you do as a community? And I think that maybe coming up with some strategies that we might think and offer as a way for our community to try and reduce the infection rates. I mean, I think that I'm hoping that given all the elections being over, like all of us, I'm optimistic and hopeful that people can kind of come together and say, what is it that we can do, right? What are we able to do and willing to do? It's clearly, and I think that whatever you can do to foster that spirit, because when I meet with the elected officials, everyone kind of puts their hands up, and while they don't like what the governor is telling them to do, they certainly don't offer anything else for the governor to do with us. And so I kind of am here to, since you asked, that's one of the things I think both parties could really help with. Because at the end of the day, we are going to be, we have to get through this pandemic together. All kidding aside, our hospitals are filling up. The rate of infection is alarmingly increasing. It jeopardizes not only our, lives, but let's face it, our business community. The workers can't show up to work when they're off being sick. Schools can't remain for in-person learning. The healthcare systems are fragile at best for any kinds of not elective, but necessary medical procedures and visits. And so we've really got to get ourselves into a better balance. And so I think it's going to require both sides of the aisle, so to speak, working together to kind of say, what can we do as a community? What's within our authority and what's within our will? So that's all I have. Anyone can ask, if you want to answer questions, you certainly can. I appreciate being asked for a discussion.
Hey,
Yeah,
Mr. Hoffman.
I'm just going to make a comment, then I'll open it up. I thank you, Dr. Martell, and I'm just alarmed at some of the things I hear from some of our partners on the other side of the aisle. I was told the other day from one of them that they went to Wisconsin because it was easier there to eat inside. And when I brought up the COVID thing, they said, it's just like a cold. A cold is the same thing. So the world that they're living in, I don't understand. But having Karen and I both had it. So
I've had it, and
yeah,
my
so
whole family.
we're pretty careful, man. So and we still got it. So it is a dangerous thing, and I respect everything you're doing. And I'm sorry to hear the bashing that you get from some people. It really makes me kind of angry. But I'm going to open it up. Anybody have questions for Dr. Martell?
Yeah, Mr. Hoffman, this is Jaime.
Go ahead, Jaime.
Yeah, so Dr. Martell, I don't know if if you could answer this question, but do you feel from the county board, are we doing as county board members and trying to either provide that support or that outlet to get behind, the health department in a sense with these mitigation guidelines that are out there? So I know that, you hear from individuals that want to open up right away. And, I'll be honest with you, Mr. McDonald's been a big proponent about it out there. But do you feel that, are you getting the support that you need from the county board to kind of communicate this across the board to at least these guidelines that you are trying to tackle and trying to implement across the board? Because I know businesses are hurting, right, left and right. And so that's the biggest theme, it's the businesses are hurting. But do you feel that you're getting the support from your county board members to kind of reinforce what the health department's trying to do, not only locally, but at a state level, to actually, help mitigate some of this COVID thing going on? So just wanted to get your thoughts. So I feel that, we could say something or we could do something differently, but obviously, there's two sides of the story here. So just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think I kind of shared that initially, which is, I think from I'm going to say elected officials, both, boards, aldermen, all of my local mayors, I think the challenge is it's really coming up with something. I get that nobody likes it's kind of like the kid who's waiting for detention, right? and you don't like what detention is, but then we've got to begin to start offering up, because in all honesty, we are now on our own in some regards. The state's not, there's no cavalry coming in to rescue us from this, what's going on. They recognize that we're in today, at least they recognize we're in between two states where the outlook is not good for us. We don't really get to choose where our location is. But I do think that we need to kind of, as a county board, I'd like to see more proactive. What is it that we can do as a community? What are there ways that we can, pull it together in a sense so that people can get behind it rather than using it as a divisive tool. Again, I think most people are trying to do the best they can, right? And trying to do the best and, in terms of getting through it. But if there are other things that we can do, because we're running out of tools here, folks, right? Outside of a complete shutdown, we've run out of, tools. We've already closed down bars and restaurants, but they're really not staying closed. I spend more time running around chasing, I'm going to say, I call it jousting windmills, which is I go out and do my job so that we don't end up getting any of our funding pulled because our authority flows from the state. But at the same time, I have to come back and say, look, this is not a good idea. You're putting your workers at risk. You're putting your patrons at risk, in addition to your business at risk. So is there some medium that we can get to? Is there something we can do? Is there some pinch point or, pressure point we can apply to others? Is there some way that we can all get in together on this? What could we all, put a little sacrifice in so that it isn't just bars and restaurants? I mean, it's very discouraging to me to hear, and I'll be honest with you, when I hear closed schools, not bars. I mean, that's I don't know who wants to get behind that campaign statement, but I want to say, yeah, I want both to really succeed at the end of this. I want both to be intact. But we are really in a situation where we're jeopardizing so much. And so I'm willing to take whatever suggestions you have. I mean, we get on a regular routine meeting with the governor and, you try and say, what can we do differently? We've been meeting with our restaurants almost 8 weeks prior to this mitigation to go in and say, is there something you can do? Can you stop the bans? Can you stop competitive dart night or whatever, what could you do differently? And of course, the answer was always nothing. Well, I think we're at a point now where we better start figuring out that we can do something because we cannot, hospitalization rates. I mean, if you look at our numbers of new a day, our hospitalization rates run about 8 to 9%. So, if you want to round just because it's easier to do the math, I don't want to inflate a number just for that. No, but think about it. If you've got 200 cases a day, 10% are going to require hospitalization and they are in the hospital for 5 to 7 days minimum. You're starting to stack now. And that's the challenge that we're faced with of losing a critical, one of our, bigger assets is our hospital care system. We are the region's hospital system. So whatever we can do to even figure out, is there some way we can get everyone to kind of settle down for 10 or 12 hours in their homes at night? Is there some way that people can understand that going out and exposing, even if you're the lucky one that gets a mild case of it, you can't predict right now who's not going to be the mild case. And you've seen our death numbers. We've had children all the way to adults. And, at this point, we've really got to start beginning to protect our infrastructure. When you can't have garbage picked up and you can't have public works maintaining things, this is a challenge. And so exposure is not, I'm going to say ongoing exposure and just kind of flaunting any attempt to keep the infection rate down is not going to serve us well over the long haul. And it's not serving us well right now. So whatever, I'm willing to take whatever suggestions you can get across the aisle to say, here's what we're willing to do in Winnebago County. And say to the governor, hey, we're going to try this. We're going to give it our best shot. See if we can't, stop. I'm going to say at this point, stop the infection rate because we are at some really critical points right now. Our hospitals today, they reported no ICU beds available. And they are, we're starting to have to look at, some of our alternate care plans. Nobody wants to be shipped to Blue Island and, or Metro South Hospital. But we're really running out of options if we don't take charge of our situation in some way, shape, or form as elected officials, as leaders, as well as population. So,
as a follow-up, Dr. Martell, just real quick, I'm sorry. Are we ready for the next step if we need to for the ICU beds being capacity? Are we prepared? Are we ready from our standpoint from a health department? How are we, or is it too early for that? But I just wanted to get your rationale on that.
Well, and I think we have to be careful. We don't want to create panic, right? But we do want to create progressive action.
Right.
So our hospitals will scale as best they can to care for every individual who needs care in our community. But there'll come a point where they're going to have to make some hard choices. Should they continue to do the hip replacement surgery, the knees, the, whatever the other, I'm going to call it electives are, whatever that person's been waiting for, because their hospital now is filled with patients that they have to care for COVID. So the goal would be to try and get people not to get infected, so they therefore might not need hospitalization. When you say next steps is if we can't manufacture staffing. So that's always the challenge. They can get beds, we can open up, and most of them have more beds than what they can staff for. And that's the challenge. We can't, we haven't been good really yet at manufacturing human beings to care for, the nurses and the doctors and the respiratory therapists. So they're stepping up to provide the care. We have, asked if there are critical resources available throughout the state. We're competing not only as a state, but a nation for those resources. So that's where these alternate care facilities was at McCormick Place now has been moved to a hospital, but how acceptable would be that to our population? I'm going to guess not very acceptable. So to your point, are we preparing? They've been preparing all around. But we need the public to do the same, right? So trying to limit their infection rates will help us keep the hospitalization rates down.
Thank you.
May I add?
Go ahead, Angie.
Joe's had it, I've had it, and I know there's other members on our board that have had this. We've been very fortunate. No, we didn't get the real hard kind, but I'll tell you this. It does not compare with a cold. It does not compare with the other type of flu that I just had a shot for. This is different, and I haven't been anywhere. But as you can tell, my mind isn't my mind right now. It does affect the mind. The other thing is too, I'm so tired that I could sleep 24 hours a day, and I'm finding other things that are happening to me, even though I didn't have a real hard case of it. So when they say, oh, it's just like a cold, or it's, well, I've had the other flu, I can get through this. No, I've lost too many friends recently through this to know that, no, we aren't all going to get through it. I've never lost a friend or a relative because of just the ordinary flu that I had the shots for. But we do have to take it very, very serious. And it's too bad that I would like to know, and Dr. Martell, you might be able to help me in this, with all these open meetings that have been going on around our country within the last couple months, how many cases have come out of those huge public meetings? I know where I got it. It was a public get-together. But, you have to find out where this comes from. And perhaps if we had some numbers on what's happening at these big open meetings that I know we're not going to have coming up now. The election's over. But how many cases come out of those, and how many lives are we losing?
So I think some of you recognize we really, the state now has their data dashboard up, and you can get to county level metrics, which is they'll compile the data. Just so everyone's clear, the state really owns the data. I know this will be kind of, which is why everyone wants to know why we can't continue on some of these daily reports, but we don't have the, I'm going to say the processing power that's needed on some of this. But if you look under Winnebago County, and it'll talk about where people have been in the last 14 days, which is that incubation period. And then in the last 48 hours when they're most infectious, right? That's where we're concerned about them spreading it. But I'll be honest with you, right now, we have a lot of people that are not going to give up that detail. In fact, it's amazing to me, the number of people who say, you would think, and I'm going to make, and I don't mean to belittle any of our religious orders, that we all lived at the convent at the Poor Clares, and we never went out any place because everyone always says, well, I was at work. That's how I got it. And there's no outbreaks in the work environment, and there's no other cases reported. I mean, that was always the challenge in the schools as well. Oh, I got it from a child, and we would be no cases reported, no cases tested in children. So I come back to everyone always thinks they got it someplace else. And again, I think there's also a certain amount of, I'm going to say, event shaming. People will not give us all the details when they know they were at an event that was not considered a safe environment. We talked about the campaign rallies. We know of several. We know that there's cases. Can we prove it at that point? Yeah, but that's not our job to prove it up, right? Our job really is to tell people, how do you protect yourself? It's not meant to be punitive, it's meant to be protective. But we're in a very critical time frame right now where this gatherings I'm going to say just outright defiance is not a safe technique to use to protect you and your community and your family. And that's the challenge, right? The virus, you're not cheating the virus if you go and eat indoors at a restaurant with family members that aren't part of part of your family, right? No one's going to, we're not policing at that level, but the virus knows. The virus knows there are two people that are there outside of a household, and if one has it, we've had bridal showers, we've had, I'm going to say business meetings, a school lunch party, let's see, Halloween parties now have been our big one, right? A lot of Halloween. So the data's there to what we can interview and get at that level of detail, but it relies on cooperation. And as I've said multiple times, it requires a civil and just society. So if you're told to stay home and isolate, you stay home and isolate. If you're told to quarantine, please stay home and quarantine. Don't think that somehow you're immune to that whole scenario. It doesn't. It's infecting our healthcare workers, our mass transit drivers, our garbage collection agents, our elected officials, our teachers, and no one is immune to this virus yet. So it's really going to require, I think, a collective approach. And I'm going to say that one of the things that would be very helpful if we could get bipartisan together, coming out and saying, here's our approach here. Whether or not you believe in everything that's going on, or if you think that more people recover than don't, the bottom line is we're in this together, and we got to get through this together. We can't afford to overrun all of our systems where schools aren't operational, our healthcare can't recover, that businesses close up in mass, because at the end, when the vaccine comes out and we're able to get through all this, what are we going to come back to? And so that's where we really need our political and elected officials to figure out what they can message together. How can they demonstrate what, that they're, and I apologize, I've got an echo, so I don't know where, that they're in this together with us.
Makes sense.
Any other questions for Dr. Martell? Bert?
Thanks, Joe. On the funny side of things, I thought this virus would be over after Election Day. That's what I was told.
He's still in the White House.
We were going to have a vaccine too.
I know. Oh, man, I was told things and they're not coming true. But I think, Joe, that we really need to get together with the Republicans, invite our chairman-elect to join, invite whatever business owners that we can, and try to have a kind of like a town hall kind of a style meeting and see if we can come up with some solutions. We know with the colder weather coming up that outdoor dining is really going to be difficult. And really it was difficult before at some locations of restaurants. So, I really hate to see a business close, but if their other option is I have to stay open or else my business will close and I don't care what happens as far as COVID goes, then maybe we need to look at some financing to certain businesses. There is that echo. I can hear that, Dr. Martell. That is crazy. But yeah, Joe, if you can work with Mr. Arena, Mr. McDonald, whoever, and let's try to get something set up sooner than later and see if we can address some of these issues. because I don't know what we do next other than a shutdown. Dr. Martell hit it right on the button. This is a national thing. Every region, every state, every county, and every city is going through this right now. And if they haven't, they will. We are going to see this spike. I think all the predictions were true that this is going to be a second surge, especially in the fall. We're seeing that right now. Positivity rates are crazy. So if we wear a mask for the next 3 to 6 weeks, we can probably save tens of thousands of lives. Until this vaccine hopefully is approved through Pfizer, whoever it may be, but it's going to take at least a year for that vaccine to get out to the majority of the public. So it's not going away anytime soon. This is something that we have to address. It's not going away. It's not a bipartisan or a partisan issue. So yeah, I'm up for suggestions. I've been thinking, and I have nothing other than wear your mask, social distance, stop gathering for parties, stop going out, stay within your circle, don't invite people in. I've had friends that had their own circle, but one of their brothers actually went to the gym and brought home COVID and infected the whole family. So all it takes is just one time to where you say, yeah, I'm only going to go in there for a minute, or I'm only going to talk to this guy for a minute, or I'm only going to do this. That's how long it takes for someone to contract it. We really don't know about COVID as much as what we like. Now I'm hearing it could possibly be a disease related to blood cells. Very possible, which would explain the strokes, the heart attacks, rashes, the pulmonary and the cardiovascular problems, neurological. There's a lot of things that may say it could be a disease of the blood cells, which in itself is even scarier, I think. So that's my 2 cents. Let's get a meeting together and see if we can come up with some ideas, Joe.
I will try that. I just want to follow up a little bit what Bert was saying. It's kind of scary to me because I go into grocery stores and I see the sign, you have to have a mask on when you come in. As soon as people get in there, the mask either comes off or it's down below their nose. I don't know why they don't think that the nose will put out the virus any more than your mouth, but for whatever reason, nobody enforces that once you get in the store. I mean, they have the sign outside, but nobody enforces it inside. And then I talked to some of our colleagues and they tell me stuff like, well, it's the same as a cold, or it's really nothing. Or it's just really disheartening because you can try as hard as you want, but you're going to interact with some of these, especially if you're on the county board or some other place, you're going to interact with them sooner or later. And it only takes, like Bert said, just one little whiff. And there you go. I have no clue where I could have got it other than at home. But I'm sure my wife, she got it from a city council meeting. So it's stuff like that. If everybody don't do their part, then innocent people or people that are trying are still going to suffer. And for whatever reason, half the people don't understand what a mask is for. They think they're badass if they don't wear a mask. They don't get it that you're hurting others, not yourself. They don't get that. And I don't know what it's going to take to get them to believe that. Maybe with a little different tone in the White House, the word will change. I don't know. But when I hear them say things like, oh, it's the same as a cold, I'm going to go up to Wisconsin. Yeah, you can eat up there and no problem. Yeah, but you come back here. If you want to be stupid, but don't bring it back to us. So that's my 2 cents. And I appreciate Dr. Martell. I know you catch a lot of grief and you don't deserve it. So I feel bad about that. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else want to get off your chest? Mr. Disoni.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, like I say, I just want to commend you, Dr. Martell. I can only imagine how it must be in your office and at your place of work there and everything you're trying to do. But I go back and forth with a lot of things. I mean, just listening to what the conversation was here in my daily life, I'd give myself probably a B+ or an A- for how I'm handling the COVID and what I do and how I stay away from places and take precautions. But it's just, there's so many people within the public, whether it's on this board or out in the community, I don't care. I get it. They've got businesses that got to pay bills. You know, the patrons are going to go if the places are open. I mean, I drive by places all the time. The parking lots are packed full and there's no one outside. They're all inside partying. Um, but I don't know what the solution is. With no actual laws that can be enforced and no one that is going to enforce the ordinances or executive orders, this is the way it's going to be. I mean, um, do you, and I would ask Dr. Martell, at what point would you or can you revoke a food service license because of non-compliance for COVID um, orders?
Well, and I think that's where I need, remember you removed that authority. We had it at one point earlier as part of we went through and had tied the emergency orders to the food code. And then you suspended that after when it expired, you did not renew it. So that would be one option. What we're doing right now is after 7 consecutive 48-hour closures, so 14 days, there's nothing magic about this now, one incubation period. I'm issuing a final letter that's filed then with the Attorney General's office, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, because I don't want those businesses being eligible for business interruption grant, because it's an equity concern for those that did comply. And the third thing is a recommendation that they share that with their insurance company. At some point, we need another lever besides government enforcement, you know, and I again, these are things and ideas. I mean, these aren't new to us. They aren't unique to us. But, you know, I think about some of that, what other levers can we, and I think really just even getting even a roundtable, what could everything of our board get behind? We worked very hard to take a look at what we could do about these events going on in restaurants to keep them safe. But then everyone took it as, oh, open dining for everybody. And it totally, again, you know, it was off the, you know, rails. And again, it hasn't been able to get back on. My goal is not to, and I think we have to be thoughtful about using police enforcement of any sort. It just creates another, but I would say permit. I know I've asked local municipalities to pull their local liquor license and their local gaming license, but I've got pancake houses being open, you know, so it isn't a whole lot. I mean, when I go by and I think a mom and pop, you know, I'm going to say pancake house that serves vulnerables on Sunday morning is just, it scares me. Because I think when people are in those environments, it feels normal to them. And it's really not normal. This is the disease that's very insidious, which why it imitates all those different vessel diseases. And some people get respiratory and some people get cardiac and some people get kidney and the children get multi-inflammatory. But I think if there's something we could come out as our, you know, not to say our local solutions, we've always said it's going to be local. Our solutions are going to have to be much more local. But you know, it doesn't mean that, you know, others are looking to us as well. As you go into DuPage County and Kane went into Tier 2 today and said, how did it work for you? I said, don't look at our numbers and take a look at all the places that are on our enforcement list. But if you haven't been enforcing it long, it's very difficult. But we don't have many levers, which is why we got to really relate to each other on this. We got to kind of public pressure each other into this, that peer pressure piece of it. How do we get as a community to apply the appropriate level of pressure to each other to say, this isn't a good idea, let's not do that.
Well, I think in the absence of drastic measures, then you have nothing because it's going to take drastic measures to get some enforcement. And I mean, who wants to be that person? But one thing, you know, I watch the governor a lot. I agree with him a lot. I know he's under a lot of pressure as well. He pleads a good case. But when he's given these directions about no indoor dining and no indoor bar service, but yet allows the whole state to allow the slot machines to continue to play, then he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. That's another thought that I just don't get that.
Well, and I think that that's something, if we could pull it together and say, this is our, you know, 10-point plan, whatever it is, if everyone closes at 7, you can do indoor dining until that point. I'm not saying that that's allowable yet. We're all just throwing out ideas here because I don't want anyone saying, oh my gosh, Dr. Martell says we can just open everything back up. I think we're gonna have to come up with something that we can live with here. But if we don't get it under better wraps in the next couple of weeks, it is going to be a very sad holiday season for, with the amount of sickness and illness that people are going to experience. And I can tell you that the school in-person learning will be very much jeopardized. They're hanging on by a thread right now. Many of them are doing a great job, those school nurses and that school team, to keep the schools safe. But it's very hard when you don't have enough teachers to teach the classroom or enough bus drivers to get the kids there. And you're quarantining whole grades and levels. We've lost that battle, so to speak.
Well, and just, I mean, this is kind of harsh and blunt, but the way I feel, we're doomed. And the only thing I can do is fend for myself because the majority of the rest of the community don't care. That's my last words. Thank you.
You're about right, David, of what you're just saying. We live in our world. We don't realize we live in a world. And all over this world we live in right now is this disease. It's not just Rockford, Illinois. And if we're going to be depending on the miracle of a shot that's going to stop it or is going to relieve it or whatever, we have a long wait because they can only produce so much vaccine. And if it doesn't hit the whole world, we're still going to be fighting this. And it's going to take time. And we all have to realize it's going to be another year or so by the time everyone gets vaccinated, if there is a vaccine. And it's got to be the whole world that has to do this, not just people in Rockford, Illinois. I think any of you who wear the mask, make sure you wash your hands. I think you're brave. I think you are exceptionally brave because not only are you protecting yourself, you're protecting the community. And I just give accolades to you for following those rules. Thank you.
Anything else? I'm going to close with my last comment. I think going on what Angie said I think the fact that people will not wear a mask because they think it shows some kind of power, I think it shows how weak they really are. And as a former military person, I know that, at least in the Marine Corps, I'm going to say we would lay our lives down for our fellow Marines. We got people now that won't even put a damn mask on to protect other people and think they're being badass because they don't wear it. Makes no sense to me. But I appreciate all the work you do, Dr. Martell. You're fighting an uphill battle. We will do everything we can help you on this committee. I guarantee you that. So does anybody have anything else for Dr. Martell? Well, we thank you for coming and talking to Dorothy. Is that you?
Everybody that doesn't wear a mask is badass. I think that should be our ad and our goal to get that spread around. You're absolutely right.
I mean, that's what they do. They run around. You go to the store, they run around and they got that man. They just look at you.
I know.
Unfortunately, I look back at them.
That's okay. You know what it is. But that should be the title of our campaign. Be a badass, don't wear a mask.
Yeah, well, that news came from the weakest person in this country. So anyway, I appreciate you, Dr. Martell. And does anybody have anything else, or should we?
Joe, I just wanted to make a comment. I don't know if it need anything. The restaurants are just ignoring what the health department is telling them to do. And I guess maybe I know why they're doing it, because maybe they feel the health department doesn't have any power to do anything. The sheriff is not enforcing stuff, and what can we do? The cops are not enforcing, the city police.
It doesn't help if they come out with something, then the
health department in a bad situation.
Well, I don't know how many of you.
Their hands are tied. So I think maybe pulling that meeting together might help. At least you can try.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're with you, Joe.
Anyway, thank you, Dr. Martell. Anything we can do to help, let us know.
Thank you. And thanks to all our veterans for their service. I'm going to get on the Republican caucus now, see what they're up to. Since
Can you take a picture? Can you get a picture of their faces so I can see them smirking? Thank you. Anybody
now.
else have anything else?
The one thing I'll add here with Dr. Martell gone, nothing's going to happen without federal government money at this point. Without another round of stimulus checks, because all those restaurants know that if they close down, they're going to go out of business because no one's got any money to spend, right? I mean, that's the balance that we're trying to find. Without a second round of stimulus that should have come 2 months ago, 3 months ago, that's why the whole country looks the way it does. Plain and simple.
I would just add to that. I agree with you there a bit, Dan, but I don't think you can spend your way out of this. At some point, you can't spend your way out of it.
Well, no, you have to spend your way out of it. The whole point is that we shouldn't be going to restaurants. But if we don't go to restaurants close and people lose their life savings and their life's business. If we don't go to local stores, people lose those things. So we tried to reopen. They stay open. If we don't go to bars and spend money, people lose their bars, right? But that's what we need to do to actually get this under control. It isn't just about wearing masks. We've got to get down to maybe there's only 10 people inside a restaurant and 5 people inside a bar. No bar, no restaurant can operate with those kinds of margins, which is why they've all stayed open in defiance of any state or local orders, right? And even when they get hit with the health department, they just keep on going because it's the only option that they have left, right? But if we had, a national mandate of no foreclosures, of additional loans for small businesses so they can still operate, money in people's pockets who lose their jobs because those restaurants aren't operating, that's how you get through this. Literally, the only way to get through this is to spend your way through it, or go for the whole immunity, right? Where we all just get sick and hopefully not.
Talking about herd immunity. Yeah. Okay. We're going half the country left.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? We can mitigate it, but unless we keep people out of areas where they congregate, it's
But Dan, that's the point, though, ain't it? That the people aren't following the rules. I mean, they had a football game the other day. Both teams rushed on the field. All the fans rushed on the field. What was that?
Right, but maybe our small business owners and our restaurants would be more inclined to be able to support these if they knew they could shut down for 6 weeks and wouldn't lose everything.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's my livelihood or not. I mean,
Right.
I get it, right? But that's the choice that our small business owners are making.
Oh, I agree. I sympathize with them, and I don't know what the answer is. I just don't have no confidence that the government can support the businesses that would have to close up to keep them afloat. I just don't know if they could do that.
We spent $1 trillion and it didn't even dent the stock market or the value of the dollar. But that's been a fallacy for the last 50 years that we've got to cut the budget because we don't have enough money. We're significantly under leveraged.
Well,
I'll leave it at that.
no, I don't disagree with you, Dan. I think you make some good points. But the problem is, the sad part is you give money and then the people still continue doing the same thing. So that money just went to waste. So it's got to, if we're going to give the money, then the people actually have to follow the rules as rules are written, and law enforcement can't decide they're not going to enforce it because it goes against their particular party's wishes.
That's where the legislature of Illinois, the state of Illinois, has to get involved and start actually making misdemeanors and fines for the elected officials who choose not to follow the law. When Sheriff Caruana says, I'm not going to enforce mask mandates or social distancing mandates, he is saying that he no longer wants to abide by the legislature and the Constitution of the state of Illinois.
Right.
And does so without consequence.
So, yeah. So I think we're all thinking the same thing. And it's just how do we get there when half the people don't want to follow it? That's about what we have. So I guess like everything else, we'll struggle to get through it. Hopefully we do. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Mr. Tassoni, Mr. Salgado, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, and stay safe out there since we had this big discussion about it.
I don't even leave my basement, Joe.
You don't even what?
I said, I haven't left my basement in 6 months. This is where I live.
Oh, Dan. But you're looking good, bro.